होशियार खबरदार, होशियार करने हाँ खबरदार करने हम आए हैं साथियों सबको तैयार करने, हम आए हैं साथियों सबको तैयार करने। कश्मीर की वादी में आंध्रा के जंगलों में, कश्मीर की वादी में आंध्रा के जंगलों में, बस्तर के बीहड़ों में बिहार की खानों में, बस्तर के बीहड़ों में बिहार की खानों में, कश्मीर की वादी में आंध्रा के जंगलों में, बस्तर के बीहड़ों में बिहार की खानों में, बस्तर के बीहड़ों में बिहार की खानों में। मजदूर किसानों की असली लड़ाई देखो, मजदूर किसानों की असली लड़ाई देखो, फर्जी मुकाबलों में मरती जवान देखो, फर्जी मुकाबलों में मरती जवान देखो। सरकार की सेना ने, सरकार की सेना ने सब कुछ मिटा दिया है, हर आदमी को उसने नक्सल बना दिया है, हर आदमी को उसने नक्सल बना दिया है। होशियार खबरदार, खबरदार होशियार, होशियार करने हाँ खबरदार करने हम आए हैं साथियों सबको तैयार करने, हम आए हैं साथियों सबको तैयार करने। गाँव में जंगलों में पहरा बिठा दिया है, गाँव में जंगलों में पहरा बिठा दिया है, जिंदा बशर को उसने मुर्दा बना दिया है, जिंदा बशर को उसने मुर्दा बना दिया है। गाँव में जंगलों में पहरा बिठा दिया है, जिंदा बशर को उसने मुर्दा बना दिया है, जिंदा बशर को उसने मुर्दा बना दिया है। थोड़ी सुबह जो हमने संघर्ष से छिपाई, थोड़ी सुबह जो हमने संघर्ष से छिपाई, लाखों ही जान दे के झूठी आजादी पाई, लाखों ही जान दे के झूठी आजादी पाई। सरकार की सेना ने, सरकार की सेना ने सब कुछ मिटा दिया है, हर आदमी को उसने नक्सल बना दिया है, हर आदमी को उसने नक्सल बना दिया है। होशियार खबरदार, खबरदार होशियार।
I must say we had a few difficulties earlier on, but through your own struggles and interventions, we were able to be here today. This is just to express really our appreciation for all the efforts you have made. That instead of a single country, like say Kenya, being under the monopoly control of a single master, say Britain, the doors to its economy were now wide open to the competition from other capitalist centers of power. Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana once defined neocolonialism as a situation in which a country was formally independent, but its economy and hence its culture were still controlled externally, clearly identifying the real enemy forces. The various classes in all the nationalities were able to find a focal point where their differences diminished in relation to the common task. But the anti-colonial alliances of forces within a territory sought further unity with all such other forces on the continent and in the globe. Today, more than ever, we need that grand alliance of anti-neocolonial and anti-imperialist forces against what I've called capitalist fundamentalism. Capitalist fundamentalism, which in fact is gripping the entire globe today with its motto of privatization and its high tempos beating IMF and the World Bank. And we can see how capitalist fundamentalism is generating other forms of, in fact, fundamentalism. And then, but it does not see itself as fundamentalism. But fundamentalism no less rigorous than that espoused by some religious fundamentalist movements. Privatization has become like a prayer, like belief, like faith that must destroy any other forms of organization of wealth in any country and in the globe. So this capitalist fundamentalism will have or is developing three centers of power, if I might call it that way. There's first for the Japanese center, which of course will see and sees the entire Southeast Asia as its backyard. There's also the European center of the common market, which sees entire Africa and possibly Eastern Europe as part of its backyard. And in the case of Africa, you can see this is very clear, like France intervenes militarily in Africa whenever it wants to. And of course, there's the big North American center with South America and Caribbean and other states in the Pacific as its backyard. But the North American center, with the USA as the basis, also sees itself as the leader of the other centers. At the same time, these centers harmonize their global vision through, for instance, the G7 conferences.
I request Commissioner Dota to speak, who will speak on the Mao's perspective on the nationality question.
I want to thank the All Indian People's Revolutionary Front for inviting me to speak at this seminar. And I would like to extend internationalist greetings from the Revolutionary Communist Party of the United States and from the Revolutionary Internationalist Movement. Let me say on a personal note that it is truly an honor for me to be here in India. The struggle of the people of India is highly important to the advance of the world revolution. And I would like to hail the contributions of the Maoist revolutionaries of India, first and foremost, Charu Mazumdar, for what they have done for our cause worldwide. Naxalbari Zandabad. Long live Naxalbari. I am confident that this seminar will result in a deeper and higher understanding of the national question in the contemporary world and a renewed commitment to the fight for the liberation of the oppressed peoples in the only way that this can be done in our epoch. It's part of the struggle against imperialism and all reaction and as part of the world proletarian revolution. I come from the United States, which is the main prop of the imperialist system and the biggest oppressor of the world's peoples. As Maoists, we understand that the hammer blows of the national liberation struggles have greatly weakened the imperialist system. And we understand that there can be no revolution in the United States unless the masses of the United States are trained to hate what America stands for and does to the people of the oppressed nations. We understand that a key part of building a revolutionary movement in the United States is winning the people of America to support struggles against U.S. imperialism, even struggles that are not led by revolutionaries. Comrades, we understand that it is our duty to bring this monster down. Now, as many of you know, the struggle against national oppression is a central part of the revolutionary process in the United States. America's whole history is drenched in the blood of oppressed peoples, of exploited peoples within its borders and beyond. The native inhabitants of the North American continent were subjected to continual genocide campaigns. Africans were hunted and captured and herded together onto ships like cattle and shipped across the Atlantic to toil away in the United States from sunrise to sunset. America's Southwest was stolen from Mexico and built up on the backs of Mexicans and Chicanos. This was the rosy dawn of the American Colossus. The struggle against this oppression has been a decisive struggle in U.S. society. Black people must and will play a major part in making revolution in the United States. In fact, if there is to be any chance of a revolution in American society, then black people must play this major part. The formation of the Revolutionary Communist Party of the United States, the vanguard Marxist-Leninist Maoist Party in the United States, was greatly conditioned by the struggle of black people in the United States. And Mao Zedong himself was quick to grasp the significance of the black people's struggle in the U.S. In fact, I'm sure as many of you in the audience know, Mao issued two statements in support of the Afro-American people's struggle. Two very famous statements. And with great and characteristic historical sweep, Mao pointed out, and I quote, "The evil system of colonialism and imperialism arose and throve with the enslavement of Negroes and the trade in Negroes, and will surely come to an end with the complete emancipation of the black people." And Mao also pointed out in 1968 that the struggle of black people was bound to merge with the struggle of the proletariat.
There were quite a few books released during the seminar. AIPRF brought out an anthology of poetry in Hindi, Mukti Ka Pukar. It was released by Sagar Sarhadi, a noted film director. The English anthology of poems, Love of Freedom, brought out by AIPRF, was released by Professor Ngugi.
Let me read one of the poems as a way of inaugurating. The poem is from Mozambique and it's written by George Rebelo. Mother, I have a gun of iron. Your own son, he whom one day you saw chained and wept as though the chains had bound and cut your own hands, your own feet. Your son is free now, mother. Your son has a gun of iron, my gun. I will shatter all the chains. I'll open all the prisons. I'll destroy all the tyrants. I'll give the land back to our people. Mother, it is beautiful to fight for freedom. In every bullet I shoot, there's a message of justice. And all dreams wake like birds. In the hour of combat, in the battlefront, your image comes close to me. It's for you too I am fighting, mother. That you should not have tears in your eyes. From that poem, you can see the poem itself commends this book very highly. Love of freedom.
The unresolved nationality question may also assume various forms like the language question, the border dispute, the center-state relations, etc. The dispute over the river waters also may take the form of a nationality question, maybe in its narrower sense. A booklet on the Kaveri River disputes with an amicable solution was released in this seminar by Peshawar Singh of Bharatiya Kisan Union, Punjab.
ਜਿੱਤ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਹੁਣੇ ਆਪਾਂ ਸਾਰੀ ਉਹ ਜਮਹੂਰੀ ਮੋਰਚਾ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਇਹ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਪਾੜੋ ਤੇ ਰਾਜ ਕਰੋ ਦੀ ਨੀਤੀ ਉੱਤੇ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ
A booklet on historical struggle of political prisoners in AP jails brought out by AIPRF State Committee was released by Sebastian of Committee of Protection of Democratic Rights, Bombay.
To say a few words about, I haven't read the book, but I know about the prisoners in Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh is the place which contributed the term encounter to the criminal jurisprudence. There has been a long series of encounters, and today, not only in Andhra Pradesh, but also in other places of India, nobody believes an encounter is an encounter.
विशाला मार के चलना चलो तक रात बाकी है संभल के हर कदम रखना चलो तक रात बाकी है मिशाला बाल के चलना पसीने दी तगल छट लहू मजदूर दा यार पसीने दी तगल छट लहू मजदूर दा यार है सस्ता पानी ओ रहना जदों तक रात बाकी है मिशाला बाल के चलना जदों तक रात बाकी है
down brutally by the Turkish army. So the period after that, between the 40s and 70s, is a period where we see a white massacre policy, a national assimilation policy by the Turkish colonialism. The Kurds were tried to be assimilated nationally, to be Turks. This was what the Turkish state was trying to do. According to the Turkish constitution, Kurds did not exist. The Kurdish language was forbidden. No cultural rights you can see. There is nothing else. I mean, the Kurds don't exist. That is the official ideology in Turkey. So, but parallelly to this national assimilation policy, we see a change within the Kurdish society. Why? Because a Turkish capital opened the Kurdish market towards capitalistic exploitation in order to use these richnesses and to exploit them. Turkey did some investments. Of course, this was foreign capital. It is Turkish capital. It was Turkish capital. It is Turkish capital. So this has, in spite of that, changed the social structure within the Kurdish society. It has changed the Turkish part of Kurdistan more than the other parts, more than Iran, Iraq, or Syria. Syria is very small. Because of that, it has not very big influence on the Kurdish struggle in that sense. So Iraq and Iran have rather a feudal structured society yet, I mean, amongst our Kurdish people. So then the Kurdish society became a semi-feudal, semi-capitalist society, but a colonial, in a colonial status. That means colonized by foreign occupation by Turkey and other countries, those four. As to come to Turkey, these changes had reflected into the policy. I mean, they have had influence on political movements afterwards. There were different national, organizations, Kurdish organizations. But to be short, there were just there was a line of archaic nationalist or petit bourgeois reformist lines, reformism. But besides that, because of the changes in the society, because of a certain number of the working class, developing working class, because of the peasantry's production, way of production changed into a more capitalistic way in some areas. It is only the socialists' demand. It can only be the socialist demand. The socialists' demand, the demand of the working class ideology. I mean, the proletariat ideology, demand towards toward the national rights, and it has also been like that. So the PKK emerged as a result of this class reality of this society. We have begun our struggle. I mean, the forming of the PKK was in the end of. Has not, for example, began only with national demands. The Kurdish revolutionary socialists first get to know, I mean, or first studied socialist literature, first became socialists actually, and then they became patriots. As a matter of fact, it is a reality. It is very interesting. I mean, to understand how the changes as leaders that time, our leader, President Apo, and other leading comrades formed a group, an ideological group, developed ideological inquiries into the Turkish and Kurdish society, both societies, but of course focusing on the Kurdish society, going to the result that a revolution in Turkey is needed. How should be a revolution in Turkey? Should it be together with the Turkish people, the Turkish working class, or should the Kurds, I mean, organize themselves separately? This was a question. Part of Kurdistan. It is 4 parts of Kurdistan. Long-lasting armed people's war. Well, centralizing in Turkey. Why? Because of the realities there, as I told. But what about the other parts? The other parts should also do that. Of course, we have then set up the party. So the party was set up on the 27th November 1978. Control of America on Iran. So Turkey became more important. So in order to equalize these forces, Turkey was driven to a military takeover.
When the PKK is fighting against Turkish soldiers and the Turkish fascism, it's fighting against imperialism, it's fighting against capitalism for you, for me, worldwide. This is very important to say here. We should not forget the Middle East is one of the main bases of the economy. Just to give some ideas, in Kurdistan, our homeland, just in Iraq, where 55% of the oil of the Iraq is belonging to the Kurds, it's the homeland of the Kurds. 45% of the Iranian oil is belonging to the Kurds. The river Euphrates and Tigris are springing in Turkey, in Kurdistan, the homeland of the Kurds. And water is becoming more important than oil in the Middle East. So we have deeply economic interest, capitalist interest, which the imperialist government and forces will defend this right. Therefore, we have developed a very deeply and strong forces against this imperialism. Therefore, it's not just a slogan to say liberty or revolution for everyone. Liberation in every country means to work, means to be ready to die for this idea, means to be ready to die for the humanity, liberty, and the revolution. And this is not easy to do this every day. Just going to the one thing more. You know, maybe the imperialism, one of the main weapons of the imperialist forces is the media. So it's time for the revolution organizations and groups to develop an alternative media against the system. The influence of the media, like CNN, like PBS, etc., is so deeply that every one of us
psychologically is influenced by this media, the imperialist media. If we want to make our issue public, if we want informed worldwide the people about the real situation worldwide about the revolution organization, we need an alternative media. This is also one of the steps that the Kurds organization and Kurds movement are doing. We have daily newspapers. We have monthly magazines. We have worldwide in Europe and tourism, legal and illegal radios.
Ilavendan of Tamil Elam Liberation Front and Mr. Ravindran of Provo spoke about the Tamil Elam.
In the country where nationality struggles were oppressed and fought against, have been turned into deserts. The same capitalistic forces who led the movements and turned traitors of the people are today joining hands with superpowers and multinational corporations in dividing the country among themselves. That is the scenario today. But again, the nationalities, progressive democratic forces, and the communists in these countries are again struggling against the same old superpowers, Zionist fascist state, and their own capitalist owners against the exploitation of the people and to protect the independence of the country, and will continue to do so. The movements and leaders who waged a prolonged war for national liberation against the superpowers and also had sympathy for the communists turned traitors to the cause of people's independence. They then compromised with their enemies by dividing the people's struggle.
Constitution amendment will not take us anywhere. The constitution in Sri Lanka is pure and simple a unitary constitution. A unitary constitution can succeed in a multilingual, multinational state.
Joe Cotniar of Workers' Party of Belgium presented an elaborate paper on nationality question.
Belgium is a small country, a very small country in the center of Europe. We only have 10 million people. The Workers' Party of Belgium was founded during the student movements of the 60s in 68. And we made part of what was called in this time the Maoist movement. We succeeded to unify all the revolutionary forces in Belgium in one party, one revolutionary party. And the main issue of our work is to be present between the masses in the factories, in the public services, in the schools, everywhere where people is fighting. We are present also in the unions, in the reformist unions, and we participate in elections. To give a small idea of what we represent, during the last elections in '95, we participated in 2 elections, the national election and the European election, and we had 60,000 votes. That means 1% of the voters. This gives also an idea of the difficulties of building a revolutionary party in an imperialist country. In Belgium, we face some nationality questions, but we face especially nationalism, bourgeois nationalism.
Speaking in the background of Europe as a whole and of the nationality question in an imperialist country like Belgium, he criticized that here it was basically a bourgeois issue. The main perspective paper, The Nationality Question in India, was presented by Sivasundar on behalf of AIPRF.
Any movement or any group of people who would like to change the society have to confront this problem of national question. How are we going to solve this national question? Before going for the solution of the national question, first we should understand what is the nature of this question in the present era. Humankind in its course of development are developed in the process of different social formations. They are divided among to different tribes. In the gradual process of economic growth, it gives rise to a necessity in which the economic necessity which makes the whole group of some territory to form it into one nation, which we call capitalism, which makes it into a nation. And in the process, with their historical development, with the emergence of a language, which is a very important thing for the development of a nationality, by the development of language, the nation formation would be complete. But we have seen in the Western world, say for example in Europe, the growth of national consciousness, the anti-feudal revolutions also culminated in the formation of nation states. French Revolution ended up in forming a French nation state, likewise many other European countries. But that was not the case with rest of the world. We have seen in East Europe and also in India, whereas the centralized state, say for example in India and also in Russia, was formed long before the anti-feudal revolutions of the particular nationalities was completed. Imperialist capital itself did not allow any emergence of local capital or the local binding of the people. Having this basic theoretical understanding, so we see in India was never a nation. In a modern sense of the word, in a modern meaning of the word, India was never a nation. India, as it is now in the map, was never ruled by a single ruler, single king, never in the past. Even though the three great kingdoms which are often mentioned, Mauryas, Guptas, never, many of them crossed the Kaveri basin, or none of them went into northeast. So there was never this political unity of India as a nation. Of course, there may be influence of Vedic culture, there may be some influence of civilization in the several parts. But when you come to a modern understanding of a nation, as a nation, never it was. Bengalis, Orias, Telugus, Tamils, Malayalis, Kannadigas and Punjabis had already formed into nations with the repression of with the exploitation of the British, that consolidated not only anti-colonial identity, it also consolidated these national identities also. So whereas all these nationalities movements advanced unitedly as an integral part of anti-British movement, the struggle by the various sections of the oppressed people against British imperialism, on the other hand, assumed national forms. There was also a movement in Kashmir which demanded even land to the tiller, which had a very democratic content in its struggle. When it was called Muslim conference, rather it was termed it as a national conference. Sheikh Abdullah was arrested twice, and later in 1977, when he was forcefully, when he betrayed Kashmiri liberation to say that he would be part of India, then he was allowed to become a chief minister. That is the case with Nagaland. We have to observe one thing, that while there was this great Independence Day being celebrated on the 15th August of 1947, simultaneously two separate Independence Day was celebrated. One was in Kashmir and one was in Nagaland. Not only Nagaland, the whole Northeast, for that matter, was always demanding to have a separate statehood. But later we see now presently in India, now it is not only Kashmiris, now it is not only Nagas. There are many struggles which are aspiring for national self-determination, that may be being expressed in the formation, in the demand to form a separate state, that may be expressed in the form of more powers to states, or that may be expressed in the form of secession. But that is the demand for self-determination, which the revolutionary Democrats should understand as a part of their struggle against this imperialism. So coming to the actual concrete conditions in India, we can at the outset make three types of categories. One, the nationality movements which are going on in the annexed nationalities. That categorization we can make without any doubt. Kashmir is an annexed nation, whole northeast is annexed into India. So these struggles which are going in Kashmir in northeast makes one sort of the struggle or one category of the nationality struggles which are going on in India, and the struggles which are going on in the linguistic states, which was fought, and many martyrs were there for each struggle. So that makes another category of nationality struggles are unsolved national question, the expression of the unsolved national question in some parts of India. So coming to Kashmir, so as already been presented before you, Kashmir was annexed in 1947, immediately after the independence, and right up to now, the problem of the Kashmir has taken different dimensions. The movement, which was very democratic in its form and very democratic in its demands, was slowly crushed by the military. The whole population there were segregated from the rest of the people. And the present case now, in the post-80s period, if you see, after the emergence of Hindutva forces, which we will discuss separately, the influence of Hindutva forces on these nationalities, the alienation of the Kashmiris is to the heights, northeast, where there may be some civilizational similarities in the rest of the India, in the rest of the nations. There may be this influence of Vedic culture in some or other part, not the whole, not even the whole, in fact. But even that civilizational similarities was also not there when you come to the problem of Northeast. They are culturally, they are not Hindus. They are culturally not with Indians. They are, they were politically never was part of India. And coming to their economy, it is totally independent of the dynamics of Indian economy which was being developed. A military van was going on, and there was a tire burst. These people were became very much afraid of, and they immediately started firing indiscriminately. Hundreds of people died, and nobody will be held responsible for that. It will be just counted like that. So Nagas are never considered even as human beings, and their death or their killing are not being counted. You see, the whole Indian constitution, Indian bureaucracy, Indian polity, Indian economy is organized, is formulated in such a fashion that these states, these linguistic states are nothing but glorified municipalities. Just to give some example, take for example, what is the self-rule of these linguistic states on their economy? How much tax they can collect, how much power they have on their own resources, how much planning can they make for their independent growth. In all these three counts, all these states have always been used as or been rendered to as only municipalities. All the major powers are taken by central government. Take for example education. At least education as a language, as a culture, is to be at the overall control of the state. Not that the very formation of state will lead to some sort of development for the people, but at least if you speak in the democratic norms, but even that is in a concurrent list, which central government and state government both have the control on that. And it is basically, even you see after 86, education policy formulations are made at the top. Central government will take the policy, policy decision. Hindi is being used by the Indian ruling class is a different thing, but there is no such a nation which oppresses the all nation. All these sentiments are being used by few comprador bourgeois or from different communities, Parsis, Marwadis, or from many other different nationalities, also from oppressed nationality. Why then even after this development, so-called development, why then even after the linguistic states, Punjab had to ask for, or many other states ask for more power, or that this national question is not resolved. We need not go into the very demands of that nationality struggle. The point which I am trying to make is, even in the developed regions, this question is not resolved. That is expressed in number of ways. Say for example, in Punjabi agriculture was totally restructured according to the need of Americans. It was hybrid seeds, it was pesticides, it was to the market of insecticides. that the whole green revolution was introduced. Although there is a high claim of Indian food security, which is always been uttered by the Indian ruling class, but what at the end of the hour we see is who made profit out of this whole green revolution is these Indian compradors, or these Pepsi Colas, or those big multinationals who control the input section of the agriculture. Punjab struggle. There are some weaknesses. The likelihood of some of these struggles eventually assuming the form of secession cannot altogether be ruled out given the weakness of revolutionary movement, and more importantly, due to the lack of proper standpoint on part of revolutionary forces towards the national question. They said that they would be in Indian Union. They said that foreign affairs, defense, finance, currency and communication would be in the hands of the center, and rest of the affairs would be taken care of by the state. They said that they would be very much in the Indian Union. But how this Indian state answered was with brutal repression. Thousands of Sikh youths were killed. So when this is the alienation, when this as a Sikh as a religion is being persecuted, definitely there are many other overtones which is being given to that. There is a demand of secession, whether there is a demand of Khalistan, there are many such netly leads to these type of demands for self-determination, which has of course been answered in the very same way as other nationalities are also brutally suppressed. So we see in these statehood struggles, or these Jharkhand and Jharkhand liberation struggles, there is a trend always. We see that there is no powerful capitalist element in the whole area. It is the petty bourgeois or intellectual beings who, for the main reason behind this emergence of this growing demand. And then we see that after some time they compromise. This series of betrayals, in spite of that, Jharkhand movement is developing. And now the latest positive development is that even the revolutionary movement has been spread into these Jharkhand areas, and if it takes, if this revolutionary movement takes into the whole this national question, I think that would be a greatest example how this national questions would be resolved. You go to banks, promotions or incentives are linked with the knowledge of Hindi. You go to communication, state-controlled media, you see Hindi becomes very much compulsory, and even the ugly dishes that is being dished out to people through TVs, whatever may be in its content, if you come to the language part of it, it is Hindi that is being promoted. And for all central services, Hindi has been made compulsory. This we see, especially in many parts of the country, English is still being a language which is being used at the official level, and which has also become the language of expression of elites and also some sort of superiority. One who knows English in this India, he is somewhat equated with noble qualities and ideas also. The civilization or civil cultured man is equated with a man who has this knowledge of English. So this is a conscious effort by the Indian state to see that different nationalities does not come out with their developed languages. If you see what is the amount of time given in the media, or the amount of money that is spent in the planning for the development of languages, the planned allocation for the education in the language level, if you all consider that, we can definitely ascertain that the imposition of Hindi and English has been a efficient tool in the hands of the Indian state to suppress these nationalities. There are many attempts being conducted by many revolutionary forces to see that this Kannada movement would be against imperialism. At the same time, there is this attempt by the Hindutva forces to see that it is not imperialism, it is Muslims. If it comes to Urdu raids, recently took place in 94 in Bangalore, or if it is Tamils, if it is for Kaveri raids. So this is a development which all those who want to resolve this national question is to have to take note of. AAPRF would also like to make some or to identify some weaknesses in the ongoing revolutionary movements, so that would be corrected, and jointly a struggle can be waged against the common oppressor, imperialism and feudalism. The first and the foremost weakness as such AAPF identifies is the national liberation forces are unable to identify their friends and foes clearly. While there is a greatest provocation from the Indian state, as already been said, to divide the people on communal lines, if even the national liberation forces also fall prey into this, that would not help the cause of the national liberation. The main enemies of the national liberation of any nationalities in India are very clearly, it is imperialism, it is the feudal shackles, and it is the comprador bourgeois state, comprador bourgeois and their Indian state, which are the enemies of any nationality struggle. National equality, regional autonomy, this would be only solution to this national question, which AAPRF would think of. So, to realize this is a future program, but to realize that, first thing is to root out this imperialism and feudalism, for which nationality struggles, consciously or unconsciously, are objectively fighting against imperialism, in which AAPRF also are firm with them in joining hands with them to throw out these oppressors from the Indian soil. So finally, AAPRF has formed some programs in which, on which a general struggle can be, combined struggle can be launched against. To support the just struggle of Kashmiris, Nagas and other nationalities of Northeast against the occupation and brutal repression by the Indian state. Replace the present political setup in India by a voluntary federation of the various national republics with the right of self-determination, including secession for every nationality. A suitable democratic method, say a referendum, should be constitutionally incorporated so as the nationalities can exercise the above right if they so wish. Each national republic should provide autonomy for minority territorial groups and nationalities. Their rights should be guaranteed. The centralized authoritarian control of the resources of the various states by the center and its political interference must be done away with. Three-language formula has to be abolished, and education at all levels should be provided in their mother tongue. All official activity, including judicial, administrative, etc., should be performed in the respective national languages. Suitable scripts have to be developed for the languages which do not have a script but are spoken by a large number of people. Genuine autonomy, whether in the form of separate statehood or some form of regional autonomy based on economic, socio-cultural, dialect and other such considerations, should be granted to the emerging nationalities, ethnic groups, etc. in the vast tracts of Hindi belt, central and northeast India and other parts of the country. Fight against national chauvinism, especially big nation chauvinism on the part of some of the bigger nationalities. The fundamental, even for this whole thing, would be solidarity of different nationality struggles, revolutionary struggle.